On 207 this fall, we are talking with the candidates for major office in Maine.
With us tonight, the Republican running for governor, Shawn Moody. Mr. Moody is the founder and owner of Moody's Collision Centers, a chain of body shops. He's served on the boards of the University of Maine system and the Maine Community College system.
Right. 8 years ago, he ran for governor as an independent and received 5% of the vote in a race won by Paul LePage. Thanks for coming in. It's good to have you here.
My pleasure, Rob. Amanda, always great to see you.
You too.
Let's go back to that campaign 8 years ago. On your website then, your campaign website, it said, "I'm not a liberal, I'm not a conservative." This year, your website says that you are, quote, "a lifelong conservative." Now, one of those statements is wrong. Which one?
Well, I think when you look at my fiscal pattern, this is important. I think it's important for the voters to understand. I turn the light switch off when I leave a room. I mean, that's how a fiscal hawk I am as far as tighten up and saving money, finding efficient ways to operate and things like that. But if there's an opportunity to buy a new piece of equipment, you know, if it's a spray booth or whatever it may be, I'll write a check for $250,000.
Well, being frugal is different from being a conservative in the political arena. So which is it? Are you, 8 years ago you said you weren't a conservative, now you're a lifelong conservative. Voters would, with reason, want to know, which are you?
Yeah. I am a common sense conservative, always have been. But I think it's too narrow a thinking. That's the problem with the political spectrum. Everybody wants to wrap it into what are your political views, versus in my terms, being a business person, it's more about fiscal. So I'm a fiscal conservative, I always have been. And like I say, if there's an opportunity to spend some money, to save some money or make some money, we're in.
Your campaign spokeswoman is Lauren LePage, the daughter of Governor Paul LePage. Your campaign strategist is Brent Littlefield, who has filled the same role for Paul LePage. Yes. Is the LePage governorship one that you would use as a model for yours?
Well, I think we've got a successful team, and that's really what it's about. They run our campaign. They've been successful in the past, running 2 statewide campaigns. I'm proud of what the work that Lauren's done. She's a young woman. She's aspiring to be a professional in the communications industry. That's her business. And I think, you know, I wouldn't compare myself with anyone, really. I mean, I have a style. I'm not an unknown commodity. Been operating a business and creating jobs here in the state of Maine for 40 years. So I think people know who I am, my disposition. I'm a collaborator. You know, a third of our company is owned by our coworkers, so I empower people. I think the government oftentimes tries to overpower people.
On that note, let's talk about the economy. The economy doing well right now,
Yes.
but a lot of parts of rural Maine are not necessarily sharing in that prosperity. What specifically would you do as governor to really boost the economy in those rural parts of our state?
That's a great question, man. And we have, my wife and I have been on the road, traveling the entire state. And I'm really excited about Maine's future and the prosperity, because the economy has been doing better for the last 2 or 3 years. We're seeing investment come back. A lot of the ag growers up in the county, you know, they're growing barley, sunflower seeds, broccoli. They're diversified in their crops. And I see new buildings going up, whether it's Presque Isle, Holton, all across the state. The biggest thing that we need to do right now is create a strategic marketing plan to bring our former Mainers, the ones that left during the recession. Now they got 7 or 8 years under the belt. They're talented, they have families, they have some assets. To bring them back, put them into our rural communities where they came from and revitalize those communities. Going to be a big fish in a little pond.
That said, there is broad agreement that Maine needs to attract more people. Would you see yourself going to President Trump and asking him to allow more immigrants into Maine? You
know, I love the questions. Here's the thing about our current immigrant population, legal immigrants. Oftentimes they have to wait 12 to 16 months before they can find a pathway to employment, because there's so much bureaucracy. Now, I can bet you we're close to Munjoy Hill. My cousin grew up on Munjoy Hills. I guarantee you when the Irish came here and the Italians came here, 2 or 3 days after they landed, they were laying brick or doing a job. You know, they had a pathway to employment. And I think, in good faith, we need to give our new immigrant population a pathway to employment. Now, let's get some career counseling. Have a language of an interpreter to find out what did they do in their home country. They could have been a nurse, they could have been an electrician, an engineer. So let's find out what they did in their home country and align that with our current employment needs, because we're at full employment. We need them to participate in our economy. And just think of the psychological benefit that would be. They're out there, they want to experience the American dream. They don't want to just be on assistance for a year. I mean, it doesn't do anybody any good.
You've made it clear that you would like to reduce Maine's income tax. Let me ask you about the gas tax. The gas tax in Maine has not changed for several years. It's what the state relies on to maintain its roads. The cost of repairing and building roads goes up. The money from the gas tax has really not changed. There's been a shortfall in that budget for a number of years in the past decade or so. Would you support a higher gas tax?
I would look at the current infrastructure we have right now for savings. I mean, there's no reason in the world why we should have a Maine Turnpike Authority and a DOT. New Hampshire doesn't have that. So we take the construction, engineering, and maintenance and roll that in under the DOT. That could save us $30 or $40 million a year. So we have to look, and it also would take existing buildings that are on tax exempt status, we turn them back over to private enterprise. It would help keep our property tax rates down in a local community. So there's a lot of duplication in our state services. That's just one example that we can remove and drive savings that we can use to spend on infrastructure.
All right, we're going to let that be the last word. Shawn Moody, Republican candidate for governor in Maine. Thanks for being with us. We
Thank you,
appreciate
Rob.
your dropping
Thanks,
by.
Amanda.
Thanks for coming in.